I'll call tonight's order of the Finance Committee on August 11th at 6:07 PM. All alders are present. I'd like to review and approve minutes from the Finance Committee meeting of July 21st.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to recommend approval of the finance meeting from July 21st be approved.
Okay, motion by Berg and second by Davis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go on to opening for public comment. Please just state your name and come on up.
Good afternoon. As you know, but for the record's sake, I'm David Brower, Chief of Police for the City of Watertown. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time as we near the crucial days of the budgeting process to give you some idea of what a zero increase budget year means for my department. First, let me commend you and your predecessors for being fiscally conservative with your methods and decisions. As a tax-paying homeowner in Watertown for over 20 years, I appreciate that very much. The city has done such a good job in this area that we are well positioned to absorb the exorbitant inflation we have seen in the past several years, especially in the area of health insurance costs. As our finance director, Mark Stevens, explained so eloquently, we are not in a position where we are forced to reduce services, especially in the area of paying our people a legitimate wage. We can retain experienced and competent employees by paying them the median income for our comparables. And we are not forced to require our people to work many extra hours without pay. We are not forced to shrug and say, sorry, our only choice is to require that you make more with less. But that means you have to make the not easy choice to spend money to combat inflation. But it is the right choice. Take the wage study, for instance, which demonstrated statistically what we already knew, that we are behind the median pay for many of our employees. I urge you to fund the wage study so that we are not giving our excellent employees a punch in the gut by saying, you are not worth to us what you could easily find elsewhere. And it is the fiscally responsible and conservative thing to do. It costs us much more to find and hire and train new employees than it costs to retain current employees by paying them a medium wage. This wage study, remember, is not recommending that you pay employees a high wage, an excellent wage. It is merely a recommendation for a median wage. It is bring the wages to a level that are similar to what they could find anywhere else. All departments were forced last year to do more with less under that year's zero increase budget in an effort to stay in expenditure restraint. I replied, my costs are up. How do I provide the same services as last year? Well, sorry, figure it out, Brower, with no more money. That was the message. I ask you not to do that to your civil servants 2 years in a row. I will give you 2 quick examples here in the interest of time, but I would welcome giving you input individually or in another meeting so that you can understand all of the costs of simply saying, do more with less. The reduction in service to our citizens from our civil servants is significant. First, my request last year and now this year again is to add positions to my department. We have not added positions in these areas in over a quarter of a century. That means my department has joined with you in being fiscally conservative. Our salaried leadership has historically worked many more hours than what we are paid to work, and we are at the breaking point. Last year I was told, no, sorry, maybe next year it's a zero increase budget year. Because we do not have the manpower at the police department, here is a short list of the things we cannot do. Annual report creation. We have not had the manpower to create an annual report since 2022. Donut Dash 2025 did not happen. If we had had the manpower, administrative assistant, another captain, when that crisis came to us and we didn't have the manpower, we could have fixed that. Accreditation, law enforcement accreditation may become a thing of the past in mid-2026. We could be writing grants for equipment, but we don't have the manpower to go spend the time to write the grants to get the money. National Incident-Based Reporting, this is NIBRS, this is a requirement from the feds, continues to take huge amounts of our patrol officers' time. But we don't have an administrative assistant to offload that desk work to. We mostly operate in the Watertown with a minimum of 3 officers, which means at any given point, we've got at least 3 officers working. This is a heightened danger for us, for our officers. As they respond to dangerous situations, maybe 2 domestics at the same time, now they don't, one of them responds without backup. Secondly, equipment needs, and they are many. For the sake of time, I will give only one example. Most of our squad laptops were well past life expectancy because we are fiscally responsible, and we make our squad cars last longer than the life expectancy of the laptops that are installed in them at the time of purchase. Because of the zero increase budget, I could not last year spend money to replace the laptops. This year, we had a very generous private donation from private citizens and entities so that we could maintain our officers' ability to do the simple work of writing citations and all the other work that these laptops accomplished. It was private donations that did that for us. I'm very grateful to the citizens, but I don't find it to be fiscally responsible to expect donations from private citizens to pay for normal operating expenses like these. As I said, I would welcome the opportunity to give more explanation of what it costs our citizens in the area of reduced police services if we have yet another zero increase budget year. Thank you for your time, and I assure you the difficult decisions you have to make are not lost on me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Chief?
Excuse my lack of uniform, I'm on vacation. So for the record, I'm Chief Rainin from the Fire Department. I'm here to speak to you tonight about the fire marshal position. I want you to imagine for a moment that you own a business in Watertown, which some of you do. You've invested your savings, your time, and your heart into it. Now imagine you find out too late that a fire code issue went unnoticed. Maybe your hotel rooms are missing smoke detectors, or your factory's dust collection system is a fire hazard. Or maybe your insurance rates are at risk of skyrocketing because no one could verify your water supply meets requirements. These aren't hypotheticals. They are just a couple real situations that we've dealt with in the last few months. A local hospital is waiting for a full inspection. It takes an entire day when it's done right, and it requires training beyond what most inspectors have, including myself. A large foundry had urgent insurance questions about water supply, which we're trying to schedule and coordinate a day to meet with them. A manufacturer has been trying to connect since spring to discuss options for fire protection systems, but our expert is part-time and has numerous visits to make each time he's here. A manufacturer faces a huge financial hit over dust collection concerns that could have been avoided with proper oversight. And just recently, in order to access the fire control panel, at a multifamily occupancy, our crews had to use screwdrivers instead of the key access. The panel's window was covered with cardboard, so we couldn't read the alarm without opening it. And none of the buildings had Knox boxes. Again, a city ordinance. If the door had been locked, the only option would have been to break it down, which we do at times. Right now, we make it work thanks to 3 incredible part-time inspectors. They are new hires that we brought onto our team, and they're brilliant. They care so much about this community that they take vacation from their full-time jobs in other communities to come and help us. But they can only give us an average of about 8 hours a month combined between 3 of them. One has just been promoted as their primary department, making it even harder to cover our needs. The other has a family with lacrosse and college. Our deputy chief and I step in when we can, but that means diverting from our other critical responsibilities. Our duty crews help, but they are already stretched thin, covering emergency calls, filling overtime shifts, and making up for staffing shortages due to FMLA and credentialing gaps. The reality is, without a dedicated fire marshal, we are reacting instead of preventing. When we react, businesses face delays, higher costs, and greater risk. Fire prevention programs such as extinguisher training have been halted, and our on-duty crews are working well past the normal duty day hours to achieve their public outreach and other regular duties of the day. While we truly need 2 chief positions, EMS chief and fire marshal, and additional firefighters to combat higher call volumes, know that I'm here for this one as it's critical. EMS is 70% of our calls, and yet I am the sole oversight on training, protocols, compliance, and operations. I can go on for so much longer, explaining the why, and I invite the conversations openly. In light of tonight's events, I think it's safe to say that IT needs the support that it's been asking for, along with police, park and rec, and our other departments as well. For the safety of our residents, the protection of our businesses, and the sustainability of our inspection program, we need to fund at least the fire marshal position in the 2026 budget. This isn't just about compliance. It's about keeping Watertown's people, properties, and economy safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Berg?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, because of quite a few people being here from the Main Street program, I thought it may be the courteous thing to do is to see if we could move them toward the front and let them make comments. I don't know if we're going to take action on their comments they want to make, but I think we could at least give them an opportunity to make some of their points, if you would. I would make that motion.
Motion to move F up to the front?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to move F to the top. Do we hear a second on that?
I'd second that.
Okay, second by Lampy, thank you. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll go with F then. Review and take possible action 2026 through 2030 city funding proposal from Watertown Main Street program. It's attached in the agenda. Mr. Smith, you are on that board. Do you want to say anything about that proposal? And there are some people here from the board as well and in the public here. Hang on, I think I might have to unmute. Hang on, Fred. Can you unmute yourself, Fred?
I think I've been unmuted.
You're good now, thank you.
Okay, yes, I would like to make a few comments. I know I have received communication which is asking for the Finance Committee to table any action on the request and the consideration this evening. And certainly the Main Street community budget request is something that needs to be taken into account in the context of the broader budget. But I certainly hope that we can have a meaningful conversation about this before anybody should make such a motion. The request is we are at the point where the 5-year budget under which the Main Street community has been operating for the past 5 years is up for renewal. The documentation for that request is provided in the packet with justification for why it is requested that the previous annual subsidy of $30,000 be increased to $50,000. We also have given the anticipated budget numbers beginning in 2026 through 2030 for how that $50,000 would impact the budget as a whole. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to emphasize the importance of the tremendous benefit that the Main Street community and all that it does is for our city. But I do want to make a couple of points which I think are particularly important to consider. Number one, whatever we do this year is going to be in place for the following 5 years if we continue with this 5-year contract with the Main Street community. And the anticipation is, and each one of those annual budget presentations for the 5 successive years is that there would be a $50,000 city subsidy. Now, it's important to notice that part of what is done through the funding that the city provides and the substantial fundraising that the Main Street community does is that there are a huge number of grants that the Main Street community oversees for the rest of, for the city and for the broader community. Specifically, the facade grant, which in 26 is anticipated at a little over 15,000 and would increase to 18,500 in 2030. There are also numerous other grants up to 20,000 a year that the Main Street community is administering in behalf of the city. And particularly if you look at the budget numbers for 2028, you'll see that there is a substantial amount of anticipated grant money that is going to be used for funding different aspects of downtown needs that are going to be driven by the reconstruction project that will encompass Main Street primarily during that year of 2028. So what I hope that we will do is to recognize the importance of what the Main Street community is doing. The fact that 30,000 has been the amount that the city has contributed over the last 5 years, and that while $50,000, a $20,000 increase may seem a substantial amount in a 1-year perspective, it is the set amount that would be in place over 5 years. In other words, that would be the amount that the city would contract, and it would remain the same over that 5-year period of time. Now, one of the things that I think we need to pursue, and I know this isn't something that is on the agenda as an individual item, but one of the ways that I believe the city can look to provide revenues for this Main Street community subsidy is to take a look at pursuing something that I brought up previously. It was not something that was acted upon in any way that would result in it being pursued, but there were tremendous losses that the city suffered during the bridge repair and rebuild in Main Street, and a huge amount of defective performance by the contractors. In the contract for that bridge project was the provision for liquidated damages. And at the last time that this was discussed, the calculated amount for those liquidated damages, the losses of which were suffered overwhelmingly by the downtown community, was over $400,000. Now, typically, they would go to the state, but the state did not suffer the loss. The city suffered through its many businesses and others who were tremendously hurt by the extended delays that occurred. And I believe that there is a very good case for the city to pursue a substantial portion of those liquidated damages. And I believe that that could be a source of funding in the future years, especially for 2028, as we look at huge amounts of additional costs to try to fulfill several of those budget categories that are in the Main Street community budget. So the one thing I would request is that we might have a discussion and whether it would be appropriate to do that in closed session or whatever, but at our next finance committee meeting, or at the next time when it is possible for us to include this discussion, is to consider the issue of the city's pursuit of liquidated damages from that bridge project. And then what I would like to do is, while I suspect it would not be something that the committee as a whole would want to definitively act upon this evening, I would like to come back and make a motion that the committee go on record as encouraging some meaningful increase as this budget process moves forward on this request for an additional $20,000 a year for the Main Street Community Subsidy.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Ms. Davis?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And I think we can all say that we definitely appreciate the hard work and the efforts of the Main Street program. It's evident as you drive down Main Street, the work that they're doing, and I know I'm appreciative. In many ways, it's a little unfortunate that the 5-year agreement is up this year, because as we've just heard from presentations from police and fire, we're under pretty difficult budgets constraints this year. And the departments have been asked at this point to keep their budgets at a 0% increase. And what we have tonight from Main Street program is actually a 67% increase. As a point of comparison, if there had been a 4% increase over the last 5 years, that would only have amounted, and we had accumulated that would amount to $6,000. But we're at a 67%, which brings us up to the $50,000 mark. So that's problematic because as we've talked about the need for new police officers and equipment and laptops, it's going to be very difficult to justify a 67% increase for the Main Street programs. Again, although their work is incredibly valued. I wonder if, as an alternative, right now there's a 5-year agreement, but I'm wondering as a way of kind of getting us through this year, if we would entertain a 1-year agreement and keep that increase to the city contribution at a very minimum, or in following what we've asked of the other departments, not to increase it very much at all. I do have some specific questions about the budget, if that's appropriate, that was presented to us. I don't know if I should ask them tonight, or if it's Stephanie, or if it's not the appropriate time to ask.
About their request?
So I don't know, Stephanie, are you prepared to answer questions about the budget that was in the packet, or somebody prepared? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just did have some questions.
Council, thank you.
I thank you for the presentation. It was very thorough, and I spent a lot of time looking over it. As I look at the budget sheet for income and total expenses for 2024 and 2025, I see the city contribution and I see a line item for events. But there's nothing for donations. So when a company sponsors an event, where is that allocated? Is it just put into the events income? It's not separated out as a donation?
We could split all of these out if you wanted to see much more line by line. What we tried to do is keep this as concise so that we didn't give you 20 pages of documents to
Sure.
look through.
So help me understand the Watertown Farmers Market. I see that is added in for 2026. Is it accounted for in 2024 and 2025? Is there some income that comes in for that?
Absolutely.
And that goes in events, you've put that in?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as a payment for Watertown Farmers Markets, I see in 26, there's a payment of, what is it? About 4,600. Is that allocated already somewhere else in the budget for 24, 25?
Yeah.
Or is that a new
No, in
benefit?
2025, it comes under where we say hired professional. It may be a bad term to use, but that's where that came from.
So it's $1,600 in 2025 and then projected to be 4,600? in 2026?
No, the 46, that's, so the hired professional is only part of the expenses that we incur. So
Sure.
I need to split that out to show you
Well, that's,
exactly.
I understand. Thank you. And then I was actually taking a look at the ROI, and maybe it's not the best way to determine that, but I was noticing that 2024 was a good return on the investment. If you take a look at the amount of money that comes in on events and the amount of money that goes out for event expenses, it's about a 2.1 return on investment, but that drops in 2025. And again, that 2025 is not finalized, so I understand, to 1.6. But what I'm noticing going forward, 26 through the rest of the term, 2029, is that more money is being spent on expenses, but actually the return on investment stays at 1.43 all the way through. So more money is going out, but the return on investment is not increasing. I just noticed that and thought that was, I think you would want for that to be increased for the income on the events, but just something that I noticed. I don't know if that's any explanation.
No, I think it's a good point. I guess where we look at it is we are trying to ramp up right now for the inevitable 2028.
Mm.
Okay, so we allocate so much money every year to facade grants. Okay, this year in particular, we've had to open up that window again because we've had so many applicants that have wanted it. We have newer businesses coming in. Our window used to just be in the very beginning of the year. Now, because businesses obviously can pop up any time throughout the year, we've had to adjust and come up with some money for that because we really don't want people to have to wait a whole nother year to do a project.
Yeah.
Okay, if they're willing to spend the money right now and do it, we want them to do it now. As we get closer to 2028, we're just assuming that people are going to maybe want to spend less and less on their buildings downtown because they're going to be saving up for possibly lost revenue, lost business, increased advertising costs, all these things, which that's why in 2028, we've tried to allocate a lot of money to be able to help in some of those areas. Okay.
Right.
We saw what happened with the bridge closing. That was an unfortunate thing. Of course, we had to get the bridge fixed, but it took a lot longer than we anticipated. There's a lot of downtown businesses that are worried that the same thing could happen in 2028. We hope that it only takes a year, okay? But we're all realistic as well.
Sure. And then just a couple of follow-up questions. Would you say that the majority of the events that the Main Street program hosts are fundraising types of events?
Yes.
Okay. And then some of the city donations goes to the event expenses?
I would say no.
No?
No, some of the city expenses, at least right now, would go towards, some would be salaries. A lot of it goes to facade grants. I mean, facade grants is almost 20 some odd thousand of our budget right now.
Okay. The reason I ask is in the report, it tells a projected breakdown of where the $50,000 would be allocated.
Correct.
And it says that 0% would go to administration costs or salary. And I'm trying to make the math work when I look at your budget. So for instance, this year, if you take events income and subtract it by events expenses, it won't cover the amount for administration costs. And then going forward, I'm not seeing that the math works out quite the way it's put in the report with 25%, 25%, 25%, and then 0 to administrative costs. So just something to consider. I know that these are drafts and projections, and but it's hard to kind of make the math a little bit with that. So I say all that to say, again, this is an unfortunate year to have that 5-year contract run out. And it's just hard from my perspective to justify an increase of $20,000 when we're asking the departments to not increase at all. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I understand, 2028 is going to be here before we know it. And we are trying our best as the Main Street Board to ramp up to that.
Sure.
Okay, we've started working on alleyway projects. We've started working on back signage, back lighting, all these things to try to ramp up. But that's taking away from some of our other programs. It's taking away from other things. We're shuffling money back and forth and back and forth and so on and so forth, and then hoping that, some of the funding comes in the way that we want it to. Now, we're not going to know how Riverfest went. That's a huge fundraiser for us. And obviously we know what happened over the weekend.
Right.
So I understand that a lot of departments they're under pressure.
Mhm.
Okay. All I can tell you though is without increased funding, without increased, help from the city, we're going to have to pare down some of the things that we do.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to pare down where we can help out and so on. And I'm sure you spend time downtown and you spend time in some of these businesses. I mean, a lot of them are trying to make the decision right now, whether to stay or whether to go. And that's an unfortunate thing too. We want to try to show them that not only is the Main Street Board behind them and going to try to help them get through 2028, but I'd love to be able to say that the city is also on board and going to try to help them get through 2028. And, quite honestly, it's a 2-year project because yes, the Main Street maybe will be shut down for only 1 year, but then we go from Zwiggs to Tivoli Island. That's still going to mean a lot of hard times getting around, especially for out of town guests.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Mr. Berg?
I just want to sort of amplify on Alderperson Smith with a lot of the points he made, because I think he made excellent points as usual on topics that are on our discussion right now. I was not on the council, but I did come in front of the Finance Committee a while back on that topic of a relief fund for downtown businesses because of the bridge and the impact it was having on them. And I think he's right on target, our alderman, by asking us to relook at and try to reemphasize the importance of looking at that option of potential income that can be targeted toward the downtown area. If my memory is correct on this topic, I think our city attorney that we had recently left, I think he didn't have a warm, fuzzy feeling toward that topic. And we have a new city attorney that's coming on board. I think it's obviously a topic for looking at with that individual on the possibility of making that a higher priority, because the benefit is so huge. For us to emphasize that in some way that could have a huge benefit it'd be foolish not to make the effort. So I would be on the side of encouraging that, like the Alderperson Smith has made the case for. But I also, when I was just put on the school board in 1980s, I recommended at the time that the school board go from $10 a meeting to $25. And they made a big deal in the paper because I was increasing the wage by 150%. And I was going from, again, $10 to $25. So percentages are misleading. They can make a case and sound terrible. But in the end, we're looking at a $20,000 increase. If you look at some of the budgets that we have that we deal with, they're hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions. And obviously, everything's relative to the size of the budget. And obviously, a $20,000 increase is significant in relation to where they're at. But I do think when we look at the areas of economic development, making this town hopefully continue to grow and create momentum, that I'm always going to be on the side of advocating for the downtown area and why it's so important to create the momentum we need as a city. And so for me, if there's a way to do it, I want to be on the side of supporting an increase if we can.
Okay, thank you. It was intent for informational, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith had mentioned tabling it. It was just for possible action, so.
Yeah.
Just, so we can move on to the next item.
Mr. Lampy might.
Oh, Mr. Lampy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some thoughts on this, as you probably suspect. I also want to echo what Alderman Smith's had to say and others have had to say in terms of the value of the program. Very cognizant in terms of what that has done for people in the city of Watertown and making sure that we have a vital and living downtown, all sorts of challenges notwithstanding. I do want to start off my comments though by speaking about that option of chasing the contractor for the bridge. We are getting to the point where we should probably either get a outside decision or finally leave that be. At this point, to say that we potentially have a $400,000 funding source that we could potentially chase is potentially cruel, I think, to the downtown business owners if that is not really an option. And like I said, our last attorney said that that was not an option. So if there is a legal opinion that says that we can become a party to that contract and recover damages, I would like to know that sooner rather than later, because that's a speculative item from my perspective. And I haven't seen any legal opinion that says that that's a possibility. I do also want to acknowledge some comments that were received from another council member in terms of putting this agreement and this amount of money in context with the rest of the budget. And obviously, Alder Davis has some thoughts on that. In fact, as a starting point number, I am actually more closely aligned with Alder Davis on that number, as that follows about the 20% degree of inflation that's been experienced since the first agreement went in place. So assuming nothing else has changed with the relationship between the city and the Main Street program, that bump would, as Alder Davis said, put us at about 36,000 as a re-index number after the national inflation that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years. There are a few other things, though, that I would want to wrap into that agreement. And I'm not necessarily saying that 36 is the only number that I would look at, but I would also want to see a little bit more baked into the contract. For example, in the contract or the memorandum of understanding that we're looking at here, I didn't see explicit mention of being an accredited organization as part of the Watertown the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation's Main Street program. I think that's an important thing. I think that is an important source of statewide resources that we've certainly leaned on, not only for technical assistance for facades and designs, but also getting to know a lot of the people within the Economic Development Corporation, being at the retreats, being able to talk to them all around the state. That has led to some additional advantages for Watertown as we have gone after certain programs, certain awards, and certain grants. And also in terms of making sure that we're on the map for state leaders as they see us in the area. And I'm sure that if we poked Mason hard enough, he'd tell us pretty much the same in terms of the value of those statewide relationships. I also would like to see in the agreement, and this is also potentially why I do want to revisit this one, a little bit more on the emphasis that if somebody were to pull this agreement out of meeting minutes, because this happens to us, a little bit more of the emphasis on the Main Street program's mission statement around attracting new business, growing new business, and making sure that the downtown remains an attractive area for residents and visitors and a reason to be down there. So I have a bunch of comments on that, but like I said, I am typically financially about in the area, I think, of where Alder Davis is as a starting point, but I am also interested in looking for more out of the agreement going forward in terms of mission, in terms of relationship with the state accrediting organization, and potentially, depending on what we do with programming as we go into budget, perhaps we'd be looking for the Main Street program to take on some additional responsibilities as well for the city. I'm also open, I should say, to a shorter agreement as well. I believe that the reconstruction project is something that the city needs to take a fresh look at in terms of who our extra governmental partners are. Main Street program obviously is going to be a key partner to that, as it's constituted now RDA. tourism, Chamber of Commerce, some of these other organizations to make sure that we have them fully on board. And the city also, I think, owes the Main Street community a complete endorsement of the entire Main Street reconstruction program, including the so-called optional elements that I have not seen a finance plan around yet. I think we owe it to our downtown, in addition to making sure that we have those strong extra government organizations, fully making sure that when we rebuild Main Street, it isn't just a concrete jungle, that we actually do have a lot of the streetscape and other improvements fully baked and fully funded into the project before we ask them to make sacrifices for 2028. So I'll conclude my comments there. If you guys have chatted with me in the past, I hope this isn't anything surprising. But that's where I am on the agreement as it stands now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lampy. All right, I'll take all your comments. Helpful in doing the budget, Ms. Davis.
I was going to make a motion, but first, Mr. Stevens, can you remind me the timeframe for the budget? When do we have essentially a finalized budget in place?
The month of August is for departments to compile and present to me on September 2. Then the first 2 weeks of September, I put it all together, pass it on to the mayor, and it's around the beginning of October that it comes then presented to finance.
So I would make a motion that we postpone this agenda item to the first Finance Committee meeting in November for further discussion and action.
Postpone until
First Finance meeting in November.
in November. Okay. There's a motion to present the finance in November.
And that's debatable, that motion, by the way. 'Cause
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, remind me of the timeline for the budget approval. It's in November, or is it December?
It's throughout October, isn't
This year, it's going to transcend. So there's 2 public hearings that are required. The first one will be before Thanksgiving. The second will follow Thanksgiving.
Okay, so in December.
okay. No second on that? There was no action needed today, so we can just table it too, so
It says possible action.
possible action, yeah, we didn't have to do anything.
I don't agree with the timeline, so I'm okay with the tabling.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, I'm not sure what happened. I believe the motion failed for lack of a second.
Yes.
Correct.
I would also like to make I would like to make a motion that as we proceed with the executive budget, that the Finance Committee encourages a meaningful increase for the Main Street community.
You're making
I
a
can
motion.
second that. That's a little ambiguous, but I'll second it.
You're making a motion to.
It's intended just for guidance as the mayor proceeds with the executive budget, putting the committee on record as to the collective perspective we have. And encouraging a meaningful increase is subjective, but it does point in the direction I think we should go.
So you're making a motion to have some sort of increase. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Smith?
Yes, to encourage in the executive budget a meaningful increase for the Main Street community.
Okay, a motion to encourage it.
Yes.
Meaning,
I
meaningful-
seconded that as stated.
Okay, motion by Smith, second by Lampy. Any discussion on that?
Because meaningful is relative to the context, and I can go along with this motion that has been made because we are encouraging a meaningful increase.
right, but on the other hand, meaningful doesn't mean a continuation of 30,000. So I think that's the point being made.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I just see this as an encouragement to continue the conversation, to have a meaningful increase.
Okay. All right, Smith,
Aye.
Lampy,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Berg,
Aye.
aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item A, review and action EMS billing write-offs.
In your packet was a memo and a list of the accounts that I'm asking to be written off. In the memo, again, it summarizes that these are no longer collectible.
I'll make a motion to approve the EMS billing write-offs as presented tonight.
Okay, motion by Davis,
Second.
second by Smith. Okay, any further discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item B, review and take action, purchase of side loading refuse truck from Enverotech and Equipment of Landon, Wisconsin for $378,877, which includes a trade of a 2016 refuse truck.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move for adoption.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Berg, second by Davis. Any discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay. Item C, review and take action, modify request for capital purchase from Parks Department for vehicle equipment.
I'll make a motion to request or to approve this request for capital purchase from Parks Department for vehicle equipment.
Motion by Davis,
Second,
that you, Lampy? Second by
certainly was.
Lampy. Come on, Mr.
Looking for
Butters.
clarification, are we saying option one? Is that what you're asking for? She's
Option-
provided option one and option two.
Well, let's just take a look here.
Bottom of 9, top of 10.
It's total of 4 pages, right? Maybe, why don't you go ahead and
Okay.
talk about it first?
Sure. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention as last year I did ask for a new dump truck, as we do have a few dump trucks that the beds are rusting out on, and they do need repair. However, within this last spring season, it was quite a season for the Park and Rec Department with all the wind damage that had occurred in those 3 instances, as well as having 2 of our fleet vehicles basically be decommissioned due to rusting out from the undercarriage, as well as front suspension needing to be replaced. The lift gate was shot due to rusting out and just overuse. And so we took 2 trucks. One was our old watering truck, which was also decommissioned, which needed new suspension, U-joints, transmission. So we decommissioned one of the trucks, took the flatbed from that truck and put it on a different truck so we could actually make 1 working truck out of 2. And with that, we then had another truck go down on us, and this truck again was rusted out from the underside and is no longer safe for the road. It doesn't change gears properly. It's very loose in the steering column, and it's seen its life. So although we thought and what was in the rotation to be renewed this year for a dump truck, we are now in desperate need of a lift gate truck. So that's kind of where I'm standing before you. The other thing I would like to mention, as what was mentioned earlier in some of the citizens to be heard, is that this stuff is happening now because we keep pushing our equipment off year after year. These things will continue to happen. You know, there will be other issues that happen with playground equipment. We've already seen that. We have some playground equipment right now that we can't even find parts for. We've had playground equipment break. We have tons of deferred maintenance within the park system. And that's not just within the park system, it's all over the city. So with that, I would just really look at all the things that are desperately needed, things that we didn't account for and didn't know would come up. I have since looked at all of the vehicles. We have 19, obviously now 17. About half of them are good. And I'm going to be in this situation again next year if we don't get some replacements soon.
So option one is what you are recommending at the end of the paragraph at the top. You said, I'm submitting a request to switch my request from a dump truck purchase to a truck and liftgate purchase, which I believe is what option one is. And am I correct that that'll keep us within budget for this year?
That will keep us within budget. If we went with a dump truck, we're looking at
And
67 to 70,000.
An overage. Yes. So to provide more clarity in my motion, then approve the request for option one to purchase a truck with liftgate.
Okay, we have a motion for option one.
I'll second it.
Motion by Davis, second by Berg. Okay, any further discussion?
I think technically, since there was a motion and a second on the table, Alder Davis was basically just amend her motion with a friendly.
Yeah, it was just a friendly.
So technically, I'm still the second on that one.
Okay, sorry. So, sorry, Mr. Lampy, we'll make you the second on there. I apologize. Okay, motion by Davis, second by Lampy. Any more questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say, well,
Aye.
I think we're spending money, so let's take, Davis,
Aye.
Lampy.
Aye.
Berg,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. D, review and take possible action development agreement with Grammar LLC for Edgefield.
Thank you. I'm pleased to bring this before the Finance Committee this evening. We've worked for quite a few months with Graymar LLC, also Loose Homes, to work on this development agreement for Edgefield, which will bring 55 new owner-occupied homes to the city of Watertown. There is no TIF or other direct financial assistance associated with this development agreement. Attorney Cheesebro did review the development agreement substantively before he left, and then city staff worked last week with Sandy Helwig from the city attorney's office to finalize the language in the agreement. We do have David Werning from Graymar LLC here if there are any questions for the developer this evening.
Does anybody have any questions for the developer?
I don't know so much a question. I just wanted to say thank you again for bringing another housing development to Watertown. The need here is definitely acute, and appreciate the work that you've done with city staff, with Mason, with everyone else to make this happen.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, I think that this is an extremely well-written developers agreement. And I think that the overwhelming provisions within that agreement are very solid, reflect a good working relationship between the city and the developer. But there is one thing that at best is ambiguous, and I think we need to address it this evening. There is the provision as it relates to sidewalks, which leaves open the possibility of special assessments. Now, it looks like it is the intent of the developer to do the installation of the sidewalks. But there is a very important note written in section 3.23, which I believe needs to be incorporated in this agreement. In other words, that note would change the actual language in 3.23 to the point where special assessments are not an option under any circumstance. In other words, they are the obligation of the developer. They need to be installed under the provisions that are otherwise there, specifying that the developer will install them. But there is an alternative provision that allows for future special assessment against the homeowners. And the note, if it were to be implemented, and it's that note AB4 on page 11, and that recommendation is that the alternative language be used. The gist of that is that special assessments may not be used, and that if the developer does not fulfill the responsibility for the installation of the sidewalks under the other provisions of the developer's agreement, that the city will have recourse against the developer through the bonding that is otherwise going to underwrite the performance. So that is one thing that I think is important. I have another minor change also based on one of the notes. And I don't know how we would want to proceed, but I think it's important to eliminate that language, which the note of this provision 3.23 would do. But there's also a provision in the preamble of this developer's agreement on page 2, which would also authorize the use of special assessments against the property. And I believe that that should be removed from the developer's agreement as well. My point is, I do not want there to be any possibility for down the road there being a special assessment process that the city is involved in furthering that would result in sidewalk costs for the property owner. And that's what this discussion and that note that we've referred to several times, note 4 on page 11, would change.
Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Lampy?
So it's a material change, the one that we're looking for here. And we currently don't have city council, or we don't have city attorney available to speak to that. Plus, I don't necessarily want to put the developer on the spot here. I guess the biggest thing that I'm looking at here, and I think the variable that I'd like to be able to fill in actually would come from someone who knows the timing of this project. When do we need this developer agreement in place to make sure this project continues without delay?
The fact is, the developer has wanted to break ground for quite a few weeks now, and just took some extra time for city staff to do review of the site plan and the language in the agreement and so forth. So I would say this leans more time is of the essence. To Alder Smith's comments, I personally don't see an issue with what he's proposing. I don't think The intent of this agreement was to force a special assessment use in the future. I do want to kind of defer to Andrew Byer on that. He is here in the room, and given we're talking about public infrastructure, I'd want to have him weigh in if possible.
Excuse me.
Sidewalks are going on both sides right now, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Smith, the sidewalks are going, Planning Commission had ruled to put sidewalks on both sides. So every new house is gonna have that already.
Right. The question is how they're going to be paid for, and under the clear intent of the majority of the references to sidewalk is the understanding that they're going to be installed and funded by the developer. That's wonderful. But there is, and that's why I believe it's Andrew's note, therefore, where he's bringing up the alternative to special assessments, and that the city can be protected by the bonding provision, and that the language relating to special assessments be removed. I do not think that we want to approve a developer's agreement that is going to leave the possibility that sometime after purchasing and building of the home, that all of a sudden the city comes along and is a participant in a special assessment process, leaving the homeowner with the cost of the sidewalk. And that can be resolved by adopting what I think is Andrew Byer's note 4 on page 11, removing that language, removing the language even opening the possibility of special assessments in that regard from the preamble. And then it's going to be clear how those sidewalks are going to be funded.
Okay, Mr. Byer.
Yeah, we kind of went back and forth on the language as is shown versus the comment. You can do it either way. And I don't want to put David on the spot. I believe there is some funding in the escrow agreement for sidewalk construction and installation. I don't know if subbing that note with the language in the agreement would change the escrow agreement at all.
I don't like it. There is funding in the escrow agreement for the sidewalks. We are the developer, we're not selling lots. We are building the homes as well. Andrew, and you can speak to this, I don't know, we've built in this city, I've been with Lou's over 10 years. We've built in this city, we don't get an occupancy permit, a completed occupancy permit unless the sidewalk's in. There may be a temporary given. At this point, we do want to move this project forward. The longer we wait, the longer these houses aren't on the tax roll. You know, the building inspection, occupancy permit, do sidewalks need to be in to get occupancy?
They do.
So, I mean, we're the builder, we're the developer. I think it's a non-issue. We've been here for, as long as I've been with Lou's Homes, Kramer, I don't think we've had an issue. Not that I know of anyways, and we intend to put the sidewalks in. So whatever we can do to move this forward, I'd appreciate it.
I'll make a motion to approve the developer's agreement as is.
I'd second that as well.
Okay. Motion by Stock, second by Lampy. Any further discussion on it?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so, Mr. Berg, you go first.
Yep. Again, I know the intent behind the motion, and after hearing the developer, and I know the people, they're quality developers and builders, so I really don't feel that the risk is there, but the language is what Alderperson Smith is referring to, that it gives the hypothetical of if, for whatever the reason, if a period of time goes by, that it does shift the burden to the property owner, which is what Alderman Smith is trying to prevent. And that's what the language that our city engineer has provided, that would provide a safeguard an ability to prevent that hypothetical, which will not happen because of what you told me, but in theory could. So I'm not sure if approving it without the language of our city attorney is wise.
Mr. Smith, go ahead.
I think the recommendation for the approval of the developers agreement as a whole is a sound motion. I just want to make sure that there's no confusion. It sounds like the developer is completely in tune with their responsibility to build the sidewalks, and therefore there is no need, nor does there seem to be any anticipation of future reliance on special assessments. So I would make a motion to amend the a motion as on the floor to include the language of removing any reference to special assessments in the developer's agreement.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, that's the pink section on page 11, correct?
It is, that section is on page 11, and there is, in the first full whereas paragraph on page 2, there is also the reference to special assessments, and there's no other area of the developer's agreement where special assessments are envisioned other than sidewalks. So all those references to special assessments should be removed, which is what the amendment is.
Any more comments?
I just want to add, I think that's completely acceptable. I don't think that substantively changes the development agreement, and the developer representative here is nodding in agreement. So I think that's completely fine.
Do you think we can turn this around quickly then? Make those changes and get it off quickly?
Yeah, those are pretty simple edits. Yeah, that should be no problem to get to common council next week.
Okay. So I just vote on Mr. Smith's.
Yep.
Okay.
As a point of order, do we also have to,
I think we got to say no to mine first.
well, you put the agreement in play. Alderman Smith made an amendment to it.
Yep.
And did you, who second Alderman Smith's? Okay, Berg did.
And my next point
amended.
here,
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Lampy.
think Mark was trying to talk.
Mr. Stevens? Just on amendment, okay. All right, any
Okay.
further discussion on it? Mr. Lampy?
So my other thing on, well, I'm sorry, let's do the amendment first, then I'll go ahead.
Okay. Better do a, okay, on the amendment, to take out those two sections. Smith?
Aye.
Aye. Davis?
Aye.
Lampy?
Aye.
Berg?
Aye.
Okay.
So my next question is, we just said that we're going to send this on to council. Do we have to make any further directive amendments to this so that we basically send the whole thing on as amended? And assuming that we get the proper sign off, or is this automatically come back to finance through normal course of business? My concern, of course, is the extra delay, even if this is acceptable to all parties.
Should be good going to council, I believe.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's as amended.
Yep.
Unless
Okay,
council says.
I just wanted to
something
make
different.
absolutely clear that we're not going to see this again at finance, that this goes straight to
Yeah.
council if everybody's cool.
Yes.
Mr. Berg?
Yeah, again, we did pass the amendment, so I think we need to vote on the motion as amended.
The original one now, yeah. I'll start then. Okay. The pass with the amendments, I vote yes. Davis?
Yes.
Lampy?
Aye.
Berg?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying.
Review and take possible action, RDA citywide sign grant program.
Yeah, thank you. One more for me. As the Finance Committee, I believe, was aware, the RDA for some time had been discussing a citywide sign grant program. It was originally an idea from our chair, Ryan Wagner. The intent of this program is to assist with new or improved signage for businesses throughout the city of Watertown. It would not cover the downtown historic district area, which is already covered by the Watertown Main Street program, as you discussed earlier this evening. In past discussions of TID number 4 closeout funds, this was suggested as a possible use for a small portion of those monies. And at the last RDA board meeting, the board did review and approve the application for the program that you see drafted in your agenda packets for this evening. So we're requesting approval to send this to the Common Council for final approval and allocation of those monies as requested.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Berg?
Yeah, just to clarify, is it 25,000?
That's correct.
Yeah. And what is the typical or what would be considered a normal type of grant payment that we would give to an individual? What's the size?
Well, the RDA hasn't had a sign grant program like this before, but this does somewhat mirror the program from the Watertown Main Street program. This would cover up to 50% of the cost of the sign, up to $1,000. So it's $1,000 or 50%, in other words. A lot of times signs for businesses are more than that. They can range easily $5,000 or more. So this isn't suggesting it will cover necessarily even half of the cost of a sign, but it's just a way for, I think, the city and the RDA to assist businesses in our community.
The problem for me is I don't have a list of what we've already allocated for TID 4 and how much is remaining.
I think there was like 30, 40,000 left. Like that, more.
No, there's approximately 260,000.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking all green, yeah.
And I think if I recall the numbers, I thought this was in our proposal for 25,000
Yes, it
and
is.
was viewed favorably then.
I think you're right.
Yes,
This was marked green, I believe, right? This was marked green on that.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Just a reminder that based on our auditor's input, none of this has formally gone to council for its release until the audit is completed on the TID, which is due August, September.
Okay, okay.
So this is advisement. They don't have this, the RDA will not be given this funds until after it all closes, right?
Correct.
Well, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the RDA citywide sign grant program amount of 25,000.
Seconded.
Okay, motion by Davis, second by Berg. Any further discussion?
I'll just throw another comment in here because the discussion on this did start a little bit while I was sitting on RDA. As was noted, the downtown sign improvement that's run through the Main Street has had a really positive effect in making sure that we have good signage downtown, and that's a huge part of making this inviting. A lot of what we were thinking about on the RDA as this proposal came through was basically the blossoming of all sorts of banner signs along the 26 corridor or the business 26 corridor as you come into town. There are some businesses there. They're probably legitimate businesses, but it's hard to tell sometimes if they just have a vinyl banner slapped on a commercial building. So this project was aimed at cleaning that up, making sure that it looks like Watertown has a vibrant business community that has real signs out in front of the businesses that can invite people in and basically also continues the goal of making sure that those neighboring businesses are attractive for rent, lease, and purchase as they continue to bring folks through. So there is a lot of economic development baked into this one proposal. It's really meant to benefit particularly existing business owners who haven't made that jump to permanent signage yet, but really need to if they intend on maintaining a commercial presence here in Watertown.
Okay, anybody else? I think Ms. Davis, that was you, right? Okay. Davis,
Aye.
Lampy,
Aye.
Berg,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
aye. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We did F, so I'm going to,
Thanks, Mason.
Thank
But
you,
you're-
Mason.
right. G, convene a closed session per 19.85 to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or it is likely to become involved. Claim from advanced piping.
I'll move for moving into closed session under those reasons.
Okay, motion by Berg,
Second.
second by Smith.
Do we have to go into closed session if we read our packet and it's pretty clear cut? I mean, we're voting on whether we should go into closed session, right? So
Correct.
I would just say that there is the option for us to not go into closed session if we're ready to make a motion.
We got a motion now, so we can just all vote no.
Well, it's up to you all.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Is this debatable?
The,
Never saw it
motion.
before, Mr. Lampy, so I'm not sure.
My,
Don't think this usually is, so we either vote yes or no and go into closed session. Don't have to be there for very long, though.
okay.
Okay. Berg,
Aye. Yes.
sorry, Smith,
Aye.
aye. Davis,
I
Lampy.
Aye.
gave it a shot.
I think Zach went off, so I will stop recording. It's not clicking. Okay, I think we're recording again. Okay, back in the open session. Entertain a motion, to move on to council.
I'll make a motion to disallow the claim from advanced piping.
Okay, motion by Davis to disallow the claim,
Seconded.
second by Berg. Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, next, J, convene in the closed session per 19.85 to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. Indoor pool.
Motion.
Motion by Davis,
Seconded.
second by Berg.
Aye.
Okay. Davis,
Aye.
Lampy,
Aye.
Berg,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have L, convene in the closed, well, I should, back in open session here. And next, L, convene in the closed session per 19.85
Do it.
to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved.
Motion. Mr. Berg's gone.
Okay, motion by Davis.
Second.
Second by Lampy.
Aye.
Lampy.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Aye, okay. 4, and move into closed session.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
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 Oh, I need a second, sorry. Need a second.
Second that.
I got a second by Lampy, I believe. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.